All right, let's get started. So I'm Chris Lee, and my pronouns are he and him. I'm president of the board of directors for IABC Toronto, and I think all of us are really excited about today's panel, and I know that you are as well. So I just want to extend a warm thanks for all of you joining us on a unique day where we've had some challenging weather and for your patience and flexibility to adapt as we go virtual today and try to keep your safety in mind. And I can only really imagine what the roads have been like today. I have no idea because I haven't been outside. But before we kick things off, for any of you that have been part of IABC Toronto for any length of time, you know that it's always important for us to acknowledge the land that we get opportunities to work, live, and meet on. So, of course, today we're located in Takaranto, which is also known as Toronto, and this land is covered under Treaty 13 and the Williams Treaties. This is the traditional home of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. And we're mindful of the broken treaties across Turtle Island. And at IABC Toronto, we acknowledge our responsibility and for all of us as a community of professional communicators to do what we can to engage in meaningful and continuous process of truth and reconciliation. We are all ultimately treaty people. I'm excited because Edelman, of course, has been an IABC friend and member for quite some time now. And today we're highlighting just two of the great examples and brands that Edelman has touched and worked with that have been recognized for their excellence with our IABC Toronto OVATION Awards over the years. So now I'm excited to introduce Scott Evans here, who he's the general manager of Edelman Toronto, and he's going to just share a few words. Scott?
Thank you very much, Chris, and very delighted to be partnering with IBC Toronto on this event, given our longstanding relationship. And certainly, we appreciate everything that the organization does to connect communicators and facilitate excellence in our profession. And really excited to be sharing some of the work that we've been so proud to work on with our clients. I'm pleased to be your host, although I wish we were hosting you at the office. We would have a lot more fun. And not that we're not going to have fun tonight, but it's always so nice to be together in person. And I'm just sorry we weren't able to make that happen due to the weather. Edelman, for those who don't know, is a global family-owned communications firm that partners with businesses and organizations to evolve, promote, and protect their brands and reputations. We have over 60 offices globally and 5 in Canada, and our Toronto office is our largest with about 220 employees. We work on communication strategies that build confidence and stakeholder trust. And our work is largely informed by the Edelman Trust Barometer, which is now in its 25th anniversary year. It's the largest longitudinal study of trust of its kind. And we're actually going to be launching our Canadian data next month on March 4th. So if you're interested, I encourage you to register online or in person at our website, edelman.ca. Well, with that, am really excited to really get things started, and have us talk about some fantastic award-winning campaigns. I'm happy to kick things off with the introduction of Rasha Fawakiri, who's Principal RF Communications and VP Professional Development and Networking, IABC Toronto, and she will introduce our fantastic panel. Rasha?
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Chris. So today's event is the final part of a two-part panel series we launched this year to showcase IBC's 2024 Ovation Award-winning campaigns. We're going to start with IKEA. I'll be introducing each speaker before their showcase. So let me start by introducing Lisa Huey, the Communication Operations Manager at IKEA Canada, who currently leads the team that's responsible for the brand's integrated communication agenda. Instead of focusing on a CPG award-winning campaign by IKEA, we've decided to highlight a more recent retail-focused campaign they've nominated for this year's Ovation Awards. Hopefully, this will give you a more diverse range of case studies to explore. So, Lisa, thank you for joining, and over to you.
you so much. Warm welcome to everyone, and really honored to be part of this session. I've had the great fortune of working with a variety of sort of values-driven, mission-driven organizations, and I've had the lucky opportunity to be choosy about the brands and organizations that I work with, and IKEA is no different. Also want to thank my friends and fam at Edelman Canada. We crafted a little campaign last year. I think it was around this time that we started sweating this one, and we worked tirelessly on getting the initiative launched, and super excited to share a little bit about that with you today. So you may have seen this graphic, but next slide. I also hope that you are aware of our commitment to both affordability and sustainability, very much part of our brand DNA, and clearly two topics of ever increasing importance to consumers today. The as-is department or section in our stores is also one of the most popular stops. And what we realized is by shopping in our as-is marketplace, Canadians, they get to prolong the life of their product. They have an opportunity to give products a second chance. Oftentimes, the product that you see in our as-is marketplace are items that not only have come back to us through our sellback program, but also maybe retired items from our showroom displays. So you're getting the opportunity to extend the life of product. And of course, preventing things ending up in landfills, so preventing waste. And of course, you're also saving a bit of money while you're at it. And those as-is marketplaces have long been a popular stop in the store. But every time that you shop secondhand, that item is taxed one more time. And we really thought that, pardon our Swedish, but that was a little bit of secondhand tax, or SHT. And we dove into trying to both raise awareness and deliver a solve for what we felt was an unfair double tax. Next slide. So we collaborated with our partners across the organization to develop this very clever little campaign to spark a conversation, shake some trees, and we also started a petition to get folks across the country engaged in raising awareness of this unfair double tax issue. It seemed like a penalty for folks who are trying to do a good thing, shopping secondhand or engaging in the circular economy and being penalized by paying the tax another time. And so we also offered a promotional discount on as-is items for a limited period of time in our Ontario stores as part of this secondhand tax initiative. And we opened with a old school open letter in the paper. We pitched media and influencers. We expanded our reach with relevant chat sheets to broadcast and radio as well. And of course, this was activated in store, online, and social. And next slide. We saw terrific response. Now, the campaign launched we were quite deliberate. We wanted to make sure that we were engaging around Earth Month, but we were quite deliberate not to land on April 1st. So we started on the 2nd of April, and since that time, we have seen, more than 70 million earned impressions, more than 260 stories, more than 125 social posts. We've seen lots of engagement and chatter around this idea of secondhand tax. We were super blown away by the more than 35,000 folks who signed the petition. And then, of course, we had the great recognition with a few lions from the International Festival of Creativity in Cannes. But what we're also really keen is actually moving the dial on conversations with government, as well as expanding our coalition with like-minded businesses who are focused on encouraging folks to engage in circularity and secondhand economy. Actually, I think today my colleague who manages our public affairs portfolio at IKEA Canada is just on his way back from meetings with officials in the Manitoba government who are super keen to learn more and engage in conversation around getting rid of this tax on secondhand items. So that's super exciting. And we've also taken meetings and conversations through Hill Days in Ottawa, as well as some follow-up conversations with the Ministry of Finance here in Ontario as well. So a real true 360 through this very simple, clever, playful idea that started just over a year ago. Now, I think we also have a quick summary video that I would, I think next slide, we might be able to share, that also our fabulous creative team at Edelman did a terrific job in summing all of that up around this campaign. So maybe we'll play that now for everybody too.
It's a global leader in sustainability, but Canadians are being punished for making sustainable choices. Because every time they buy a second-hand item, it gets taxed, even though it was already taxed the first time. That's paying tax on the same thing twice. IKEA, a leader in sustainability, wanted to end this double tax, now known as second-hand tax. Or we gave Canadians back on all second-hand items. It's simple. HST 13%, SHT minus 13%, meaning our customers pay 0% tax. People went crazy.
Do not want to pay double the tax. Talk to your people.
Saying things like, they're doing more for us than the Canadian government ever has. And this is bananas. Thousands and thousands signed the petition. IKEA's CEO brought Canada's biggest brands together.
I feel very proud to say, I think that's so. SHT.
And they discussed putting an end to the double tax. The whole country was talking.
Canadians very happy with IKEA.
Canada's got a really neat, and they're telling you the Canadian government.
Then got real. IKEA delivered the message to the government, and they agreed to meet and talk about putting an end to the double tax for good.
Brilliant.
That's what I love.
Holy.
Thanks so much, Raja. I'm not sure if you wanted to hold questions to the end, or if you want to move to.
Yeah, so I'll ask a few questions, and then everyone can either type in the questions in the chat, or you're gonna have a chance anyway in the last 10 minutes or less than 10 minutes to ask. So, Lisa, what I loved about your campaign, well, many things, but first of all, the fact that it was comms led means you didn't necessarily have the budgets like to do an out of home campaign, etc. So, the first question is, how are you able to manage a tight budget for a campaign as impactful as this one?
Yeah, well, as a low-cost company, cost consciousness is always sort of top of mind. It's one of our core values. It's definitely, the way that we consistently work is thinking about how to do big things with minimal resources. In this particular case, we were challenged with some competing priorities because we were also making significant investments in lowering prices last year. So that I think to date we've invested over 130 million in lowering prices in the past 18 months or so. So ever more pertinent for us to really roll up our sleeves and get clever. I'm super grateful to the team at Edelman who worked with us and pushed us to get cheeky and to get clever with really limited resources. But we were able to do that, and I really think that the pitching and expanding our efforts with radio really made a difference, and the team were super keen on moving quickly with having a dedicated resource that was our one point person to move quickly with, and we sort of did a lot of heavy lifting on the internal side from our side too.
Yeah, amazing. Well, since you mentioned the media, maybe my next question is, you garnered more than 266 stories around this campaign, correct?
Yeah.
So I read something, maybe I'll ask you in a bit. So how did you navigate such a crowded news cycle? Because that's a huge number.
Yeah. So I would say that we were it was tough when we went out at first. It was certainly busy. And as I mentioned, we were very mindful to make sure that we didn't land on the April 1st, so that it wasn't initially deemed an April Fool's joke. So we were definitely challenged. There were, a number of other things happening in the news at the time. But we stayed focused, and then also really dialed into strategically shifting to broadcast and expanding that lens. Really, being able to offer up those chat sheets really helped to generate some additional much needed energy around exposure for the campaign. I think also, even though we were testing the offer of offering the 13% in tax back, 13% back to customers as a bit of a promotion. The petition was also another way for Canadians to be involved. So therefore, also giving us an opportunity to expand coverage too.
Yeah, I also saw that you sent digital letters to federal, provincial stakeholders, and these open letters appeared in print. Can you tell us more about that? Because
that's the sort of on this slide here, the sort of full page. We landed in very targeted outlets, and we were very specific in that content to generate interest, particularly from stakeholders that we were able to then follow up with those conversations that really helped to furnish some of the meetings that we were able to take during our Hill Days. I think it was in the spring.
in the spring. And last question for now from me, because we're getting comments like they love the copy for the creatives from people on this chat. But about the social impact bit, you did mention IKEA being a circulatory leader. So we've all come across campaigns that claim to be environmentally friendly without making the substantial effort. So how did you authentically communicate these efforts without being perceived as greenwashing?
Yeah, I mean, I think greenwashing is definitely a consideration and a concern for most of us. First and foremost, sustainability is part of our values and part of our DNA. So it makes it a little bit easier. The reality that, as is, and that commitment has been around for decades. It's definitely a service that we, or an offering that's been part of the retail experience for quite some time. And then I think that was the starting place for us to be, authentic. And I think we were very intentional, and we continue to be very intentional about our language. And so we were really clear, and we focused on the simplicity. And as I mentioned, making sure that we weren't kicking off our efforts on April Fool's Day also was by design, so that we wouldn't get dismissed. That was also super important for us.
Well, that's great. Something tells me you're going to win an OVATION Awards for this one. Okay, thank you so much. We'll probably talk again at the end of the session with some questions. Just a housekeeping reminder, if everyone who's joined, if you can just type in your names, your full names, just so we can register attendance, that would be super helpful. So I'm going to present the speaker for our second case study, Naila Rose Bazin, Associate Director of Marketing for Global Brands at Birla Canada. She leads the marketing team in Canada and has played a key role in driving market share and profitability for the brand through strategic initiatives. The agency that Birla partnered with on this campaign is Zeno Group. So Naila, over to you.
Thank you so much for this introduction, and very honored to be here with you all today. Today, I'm going to ask everyone to go back in the past a little bit, because this campaign that we're presenting today won the OVATION Award in 2024. This is a campaign we executed in 2023. So I'm going to need everyone to remind ourselves of what was happening in 2023. So let's look at the opportunity that we had to grow differentiation. I think we'll just go to the next slide. The title of the campaign and our submission was Growing Differentiation Through Barilla Moda, which is the name of the campaign that I'm going to walk you through today. Next slide. Okay, so we are in 2023. I'm going to need you to click a few times, so that will make it easier. When 2023, we need to elevate our brand, and we need to differentiate our brand. There is a lot of competition in the marketplace. We're talking about pasta product. Pasta is a highly commoditized category. Everybody loves pasta. Everybody eats pasta. It's very difficult to stand out from the crowd in this category that is very, very promotional driven as well, and pricing driven. Competition was intensifying their efforts. We had to stay strong to stay the best premium brand of pasta in Canada. At the same time, consumers were closer to their wallets more than ever before, because we were going through a lot of inflation in the marketplace. In 2023, there were a lot of price increases that were happening in the market, and consumers were very careful with where they wanted to spend their money. So you need to be very differentiated so that you can justify that price premium on shelf. At the same time, we have a very strong brand. Barilla is a well-known brand internationally, but it was perceived as quite mainstream, not quite premium where we wanted it to be. And we really needed to reinforce our Italian DNA and our Italian heritage and our premium look. So we launched a new visual identity that year in 2023 across our entire range of products with a new look, new colors, new logo, all of the things that really put our brands together and make it recognizable to consumers. We also were closing the gaps that we had strategically in the portfolio in terms of innovations. And we launched 2 new cuts that year that are Italian shapes, tagliatelle and pappardelle, that are premium nests shaped pasta. So this is a premium segment in the category that really helps us to also showcase strategically our Italian heritage. At the end of the day, our job was very clear. We had to reinforce Barella's differentiation as a premium innovative brand with a strong Italian know-how to justify that price premium on shelf to consumer. So our wonderful agency Zeno had an idea. Let's go to the next slide. And this is all backed by research. We know we have a clear bullseye target and a consumer segment that we really want to attract. We were doing quite well with the older generations. We had to do a better job also with the younger cohort of Gen Z and millennials. And we also know that there are a few things that Italy is very famous for. Italy is famous for their food. It's famous for pasta. It's also quite famous for fashion. And at the same time, there were some moments that were happening in the marketplace with a designer that launched this Barilla bag, and consumers were going crazy for it, especially the Gen Z. We also know that people wanted to have the comfort of restaurant quality food at home, and they were being cozy as people were working more from home. So all of these ideas put together and created this new, edgy, newsworthy campaign called Barilla Moda. Let's play the video. So imagine the music is very trendy, more like a nightclub disco song that would appeal to the Gen Z consumer. And that was very beneficial to the edgy campaign that we put together. So now, sorry, I think we need to go back one slide on what we did before the results. Okay, so the solution was to launch a collab with Parasuco. Parasuco is an Italian-Canadian fashion designer, and we launched a capsule collection with limited edition items that were done in collaboration with Salvatore Parasuco that included a hoodie, a ball cap, a t-shirt that were very cozy. They were unisex. Anybody could wear them, very cozy. We launched a consumer contest for consumers to win those items that were done in very limited quantities, maintaining that sense of exclusivity. We made it fun with gamification. There was a spinning wheel where consumers could click a button and they could try to spin the wheel and win those prizes every day. On top of that, there was a grand prize for consumers to win, including a shopping spree on Parasuco website and a year of pasta from Barilla. The campaign was seeded with media and influencers and micro-influencers. We generated a lot of earned media from this campaign, creating that buzz on bringing our new look to the shelves with a different angle of the fashion collaboration. We leveraged also a lot of influencers for our campaign, and all of this was supported with paid media amplification to make sure that we had high reach to our consumers coast to coast. As well, in key cities like Toronto, we had experiential activations with the different fashion shows at the ICFF Film Festival. So this campaign was very successful. We'll go to the next slide on the results. We had a tight budget, but this campaign really elevated our brand and helped us achieve at the end of the year the status of Iconic from a brand equity point of view. So we were no longer seen as a mainstream brand. We were now seen as an iconic brand. And that was a huge win for the brand and not one that we achieved so lightly. The campaign generated 15 million impressions. A lot of that was from earned media, so not necessarily paid, because the campaign was generating a lot of buzz. And we conducted a brand lift study to understand how that really moved the needle for the brand. We saw that this campaign that was really breaking through the clutter of the typical pasta ads that we typically have was generating a lot of memorability with consumers. So the ad recall was plus 18 points when the benchmark is only plus 1. And we also had plus 5 points on premium brand association. So it's a premium quality product. It's the best Italian brand of pasta. We made significant gains on those metrics that we wanted to go after for our brand equity. In terms of the innovations that we were pushing in the campaign, they became the #1 nested pasta SKU in the country in less than 6 months. We gained 30% of the share of the nested pasta segment within a very short time frame of less than a year. And ultimately, we also love to measure market share gains. We gained 1.6 share points from this campaign, and that share gains were actually sustained following the campaign, where we maintained like over plus one share point, with a lot of gains coming from the innovation and on your visual identity and obviously our iconic status. So overall, it was worth taking the risk to launch a very differentiated campaign that helped make our brand differentiated. And I will take questions if you have any.
Thank you, Naila. That was so, when I was at ICFF, I did receive samples of Verla, and so definitely made an impact. I don't even cook, and I still have this brand association. So just a few questions. We all love to learn from each other's challenges. So I'm sure that you had a lot with a campaign this large. What were they? I'm curious, were they budgetary? Were they related to the partnership? If you can share any challenges you faced.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, obviously, the budget was probably a big part of this because we had a very tight budget for this campaign, and we wanted to make sure that we also had enough budget remaining to do the paid media amplification. So we had to be very scrappy with our agencies, did a lot of things directly rather than outsourcing it, and did a lot of heavy lifting in negotiations with top tier influencers to really get the best value and leverage it to the best possible. For the seeding of the media kits as well, there were a lot of efficiencies done there. We also had a lot of negotiations with Parasuco as a partner to really showcase what was the value for them, what benefits they were going to get and exposure they were going to get from this campaign that we were sponsoring that would have them do pretty much the whole thing at no cost. So we basically just had the production cost because we negotiated a lot with them. They took on a lot of the heavy lifting piece when it came to the photo shoot. This is not AI generated images that you see on the screen. These are actual models that we booked with hair and makeup and all of the photo shoot that comes after that. So we really took from the strength of the partner that we were bringing in to make sure that we were going to get to a win-win situation and really maximizing the value. The other piece that was, for me, particularly a challenge was working on a global brand, working through internal stakeholders. This campaign was very different from anything that was ever done in the past. And this was a local initiative, only done in Canada. Nothing like this was done globally. So it was the first of its kind. And we are used to doing more of the family-oriented pasta ads. People are eating pasta at the table. It's the family feeling. So that was a very different campaign to lean into the fashion angle.
Yeah, because it is a family business still,
yes,
correct?
It is a family-owned company, yes.
Family-owned company, yeah. That's great that you leveraged, the partner also in terms of like they invested as well into the photo shoot and the promotion, I believe, from their end as well. So what would be a key learning now that you've shared the challenges? Like, is there anything you would have done differently with hindsight?
I think one of the key learning is taking risk is worth it when it's strategically done to really move the needle on the brand. I would have loved for this to be a bigger campaign with a bigger amplification. So I think now that we have the case study that this was successful, it's something that we can work with the global team on. Could we make this bigger? Could we partner with other markets to make this bigger? I also think there is an opportunity. We don't do direct to consumers, but there was a lot of willingness for consumers to actually buy the pieces. We didn't have the pieces available for sale. The sense of exclusivity was still key for this. Consumers still didn't want this to be like mass production, especially when we're trying to be in that premium segment. But having some pieces at a high enough price point with limited quantities, but available for consumers to purchase, could have been an opportunity that we weren't able to execute. So that could have been definitely an angle, and involving consumers. I think it's always great to involve consumers in the campaign. If we have different pieces, they could vote for their favorite pieces and do this with a pre-sale kind of approach. This is very different, but this is something that could be worth exploring.
Yeah. So do you think that the limited edition angle was helped with the success, or is it something you're saying that with hindsight, like you would have liked to offer the capsule like for a longer period of time, or how would you?
This is a great question and very timely. So limited edition, I think, and exclusivity is definitely the right angle. When you make it available for everyone, there is less willingness and less excitement around it. So that piece is definitely critical, especially for the cohort of Gen Z. They love to have access to exclusive items. The millennials, not as much, but when we're trying to go after the Gen Z cohort, that is a big lever to leverage. And we are seeing that. I'm not sure if any of you have seen, but we actually just launched pre-Valentine's Day, a limited edition love pasta and a heart-shaped pasta. And that sold through so quickly. It sold like hotcakes. Like consumers were going to all of the stores to try and find it. It's been a huge success in the US and now in Canada. We are very excited to really develop that approach of more limited time offers, knowing that it's really helping us to gain penetration with the younger cohorts and driving incremental sales to the business.
Yeah, and I think in terms of also back to a point you made in terms of getting buy-in internally, I saw that your campaign drew on so much insights. Like you worked with Nielsen, you also drew some insights from industry publications. Did that help in getting some buy-in internally and building your business case internally as well?
Yes, definitely. Definitely having a fact-based recommendation is going to help our case to have anything approved. We knew for this campaign that our consumer target, our bullseye target, they were really over-indexing with lifestyle and fashion content. So that strong over-indexing was a key factor on why we also chose this angle. We knew it wasn't something that they were not going to be interested in. They were already interested in. And they were seeking that content on social. So that's why we also focused the efforts on pushing the campaign on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, really leveraging social media, because that's the content they wanted to see and that's where they wanted to see it. So we're giving them the right content in the right place and amplifying so we have activation at scale to get the results.
Perfect. So if anyone has any questions for Naila, just prepare them or send them, share them in the chat. On to our final case study of the evening, Knorr. Allow me to introduce Shagufta Huda, Associate Director in Unilever's deodorant category. She was previously the Associate Marketing Director for Knorr and joined Unilever in 2014, has excelled in multiple roles across the business from ice cream and tea to hair care and skin cleansing. Shagufta, I'll pass it to you now to present a case study for Knorr.
Beautiful. Thanks, Rasha. You can go to the next slide. Amazing. So as Rasha mentioned, I'm not here to talk about deodorant, so I'm definitely here to talk about Knorr. Knorr is a brand where we thought was stuck in the back of many people's cupboards for a very long time. In fact, I've got some bouillon here, but this is what we were trying to sell, which really, really was just in the back of people's cupboards collecting dust. And our goal was to get this out of people's cupboards and get them cooking again. So I'll talk to you a little bit about how we did that. If we go to the next slide. We found a consumer insight, one that's really, really true, which is that every single day, and we can click through, perfect. Consumers are looking for quick, tasty, and affordable meals that are not fast food. Every day they go through their workday and they think to themselves, what are we going to eat for dinner tonight? What are we going to feed our families? And a lot of times delicious food looks like a burger, it looks like an Uber Eats order, but we wanted to bring home cooking back home and really champion that. And so we worked with our North American counterparts and we launched a master brand campaign called Meet Your Own Taste Combo.
Okay, we might have lost her. We might have lost her for a few minutes, so maybe we'll just wait for a bit till she's back. Just wanted to, maybe until she's back, a clarification from IKEA. I think, when I was reading about your campaign, Lisa, I think the reason why, in compared to other markets globally, like the EU, Sweden, they do have something called margin schemes from secondhand items where you are still taxed, but not like the full sale price, like just the profit margin. Because I was interested to know how other markets, have policies around secondhand items, and so with regards to retailers. So maybe that's also why, like it was very important for Canada specifically, because at the beginning of your video you mentioned it's a sustainability leader. So because there are other markets like Canada who also tax on secondhand items. Can you give us some context globally where like Canada, the importance of Canada in this campaign?
Yeah, well, we're one of the more mature IKEA markets in terms of, we're bearing down on our 50th anniversary soon, and there even you mentioned also that we were focused on this was a communications driven campaign, and so within that, yes, there are, I think, changes for how taxation happens, or differences rather, around the world. There are differences province to province for us here in Canada. So that was also part of the simple recipe that worked with this initiative. That simple play on words or those three little letters that Edelman creatively brought to the table for us. That helped us to play on what's resonant for folks, HST, and giving back the tax through the SHT.
Yeah, hopefully it's an inspiration for other markets to follow suit outside of Canada.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I think we have Shagufta back on the line. Are you here? I think we saw you.
I am. Yes, I am so sorry. My computer decides to do a restart literally at the worst moment, so I apologize. I'm calling in from my phone, but can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes, we
Yes.
can. Yeah.
Okay, and I do not see the slides. Okay, there we go. Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So I'll bring us back a little bit. We found the consumer insight that people wanted quick, tasty, and affordable meals, and we turned it into a North America mass brand campaign called Make Your Own Taste Combo. And I'll explain a little bit about what that means. But most importantly, we brought it at home in Canada to Canadians in a locally relevant activation with our partners at Edelman. So if you go to the next slide, I'll answer, what is a taste combo? A taste combo is a meal that consists of a protein, a a veg, and Knorr as your secret weapon to making everything delicious. And the idea was that with Knorr, we could make meals delicious, nutritious, and affordable. And we really called it our DNA. So, when you talked about Knorr, it's about making delicious, nutritious, affordable meals. We weren't just selling the product, aka these tiny little bouillon cubes, but we were selling these delicious meals that you could really enjoy at home. And if you go on to the next slide, I'll show you sort of what the 360 campaign looked like across the board. But then what we'll really do is deep dive into the local passions campaign. So yes, we had a massive master brand campaign that went all the way from TV, where we reached 99% Canadians. We had a massive social digital campaign where we featured many, many recipes across the board. Each recipe featuring a specific product for that specific DDM audience or a specific audience. We then brought those recipes into the in-store environment where we refreshed all of our in-store vehicles and featured recipes that were relevant to Canadian consumers. And then we tapped into an army of influencers, if I may. But where I really, really want to double down is that top right-hand corner that you see squared away in yellow. We partnered with two faces, one specifically in Canada, whose name is Maddie Matheson. So if you flip to the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit more about Maddie. For those of you who don't know Maddie, he is a Canadian celebrity chef with over 3 million followers. I'm sure if I check today, he likely has more. But he is your resident Torontonian celeb chef. He's the owner of classics like Maddie's Patties. He's a featured actor on The Bear. But really, we entered a partnership with him to borrow what I would call some cool credential or some cool personality from him. And together with Maddie and an army of micro-influencers, we took over a real home in the trendiest neighborhood in Toronto, Trinity Bellwoods, and we turned it into a pop-up takeout joint. Named it Yummy K's, aka Yummy Knorr. And the idea was to really prove to Canadians that you truly can have delicious, nutritious, and affordable meals made at home. We charged Canadians $5 for a beautiful little takeout box, and then actually donated that money to La Table des Chefs, which is an organization dedicated to teaching youth how to cook. It was an absolutely incredible campaign. If you want, you can play one of the assets, the left-hand one there, just to give you a sense of the recipe we created.
I need to make a taste combo that's going to light the world up. Barbecue glazed chopped chicken sandwich. We're going to season our chicken thighs with the roasted garlic bouillon. We're going to make our chicken bouillon barbecue sauce right now. Barbecue chopped chicken. Barbecue choppy chicken chopping sandwich. I was so inspired by Cardi with her Marry Me chicken. I made my barbecue chopped chicken sandwiches. I want to see what your taste combos are. Share them with me. Show me what's good, okay, everybody? Ah! Fire. Like a little Cardi B.
Okay, so clearly he's got a massive personality, and he wasn't your traditional Knorr influencer, if I can say that, but he definitely brought Knorr out of the cupboard with that recipe, to a point where that video organically became the #2 trending video on TikTok in Canada, which was an incredible moment for Knorr to shine. And then, as I mentioned, we created this beautiful pop-up where we expected to maybe sell 300, 400 taste combos, but the lines just kept on coming, and we had to reorder ingredients at least 3 times. So really consistently selling out of taste combos and sold 1,000 of them in total. The earned outlets, the earned reach that we got from this was just incredible, hitting 60.7 million impressions across multiple publications and 194 pieces of media. But probably my absolute favorite part of the results of this campaign was the consumer feedback that we got. Consumers truly were shocked that this is Knorr showing up. They came and they said, we tried to come today, but you were sold out. or this is the perfect pairing. And just watching consumers walk by this home and almost like take a double take was really, really cool. And then lastly, if you go on to the next slide there, we didn't stop there. We just weren't satisfied. It wasn't enough. So we decided to take over the busiest subway station, which is Yonge Bloor Station in Toronto, in the summer months, and really decided to intercept Canadians when they were hungry. So brought that same taste combos messaging, when that Canadian is going home somewhere between 4 and 6 p.m. after work and they're hungry, we wanted to show them all the beautiful dishes that they can make using Knorr. Yes, by displaying our recipes, but also by having really contextually relevant messaging, such as flavor arriving in 3, 2, 1, or no delays to tasty. Overall, just a super incredibly successful campaign that drove sales turnaround for us and also brand power turnaround for us as well. But also just an incredibly fun campaign to work on. If you go to the next slide, I think we've got the video and then we'll wrap.
This is how people feel about fast food. And this is how people feel about homemade food. So how is Knorr, a home cooking brand facing declining sales and relevance, supposed to compete with that? We set out to rebrand home cooking to be as exciting as fast food. Introducing Knorr Yummy K's. We turned an ordinary residential home into a trendy fast food joint, serving fast food level flavor through homemade meals. We partnered with famous chef and actor Maddie Matheson.
You know what you deserve? A beautiful meal.
To create fast food style combos that were served on the spot and made easy to replicate at home. Everything about Yummy K's mimicked what people love about fast food restaurants, from the design to the ordering experience, pickup, and devouring. The only difference? These Knorr meals were homemade and served out of a real home. And everyone ate it up. Yummy K's sold out 3 times. Maddie's homemade food content was a top trending video in Canada. This person even ran 2 kilometers to get her hands on some homemade goods. And as a direct result of Yummy K's, Knorr sales increased by a whopping 16%. Thanks to Knorr, good food fast was in. And it's here to stay. Got enough of you, baby.
Awesome. So that's all I had for you guys, but open to answer any questions.
Thank you, Shirley. Well, just saying, I live in Trinity Bellwood, so can I nominate my home for Matthew Matheson next time?
Absolutely, absolutely. What a great neighborhood.
Yeah, so since we're talking about Matthew Matheson, how did you come to the partnership with him and what role do you feel it's played in the success?
Yeah, Maddie Matheson was absolutely critical to the success of this campaign. When Edelman came to us with a few ideas of who we could partner with, there were some that I would describe as more traditionally Knorr, or classic foodie type creators, or vanilla or wallpaper, as I like to call it. And then there was Maddie. The second my associate and I saw Maddie on the screen, I think both of our jaws dropped. And we were just so excited for the chance to partner with him because what he brings to the table is a certain personality and charisma that you don't get from anyone else, frankly, in the industry. He also brings a level of fame that's just not achievable. And he brings this true passion for delicious food. He also, frankly, brings authenticity because he uses Knorr in his recipes. So there was such a beautiful, authentic link there. And as the owner of restaurants like Maddie's Patties, so when you're going up against fast food restaurants, he just was like a perfect candidate. So it honestly, you could say it was love at first sight because right away we were like, we want to go with him and partner with him. But he really was the best fit for the campaign. And I'm very confident that borrowing some of his star power was a big part of what drove the success of this one.
That's great that, from an authenticity standpoint, he actually uses the product as well.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you one more question and then please, everyone, Actually, I'll take someone's questions because we don't have much time for Q&A. Someone is asking you, Shagufta, are there plans of developing new products and comms geared towards multicultural audiences?
Yes. You know, it's such a big opportunity in Canada, as we know, but the cool thing about Knorr is it has presence in so many markets around the globe, and it's a well-known brand around the world. Some know it as Knorr, some know it as Knorr, but it's well-known regardless. And so absolutely, I think tapping into various diverse multicultural audiences would be a huge benefit for the brand. I'm not on it anymore, so I can't speak to it, but I know that was definitely something I left behind.
Yeah. And maybe one more. What one thing do you want us to learn from your work on your initiatives? For each presenter, we may not have time to ask each presenter, but maybe we'll, Shagufta, since you're with me now, I'll
Sure.
question.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I've learned the most is it's incredibly important to be agile and to iterate as you work through your plans. And the reason I say that is because probably 1,000,001 things went wrong as we worked through our planning, and we had 1,000,001 surprises. Whether it comes to negotiating fees with Maddie, whether it comes to the location of our home changing, a few weeks before the actual activation. I remember getting a phone call at like 6 p.m. on a Friday evening, being like, the home is changing. Whatever it was, we had to be really agile and sort of move with the motions of the campaign, and that was super critical to landing it successfully.
I already asked it to Naila, so maybe Lisa can answer the question about the learning.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the critical thing for us was to stay focused and sweat the small stuff. Similarly, we had lots of considerations to work through. As you can imagine, as a comms team, we're not necessarily in the weeds on tax law. So certainly important for us to engage our friends in tax to, make sure that everybody was on side. We're also a family-friendly brand. So working on this creative and having, SHT run on audio in our units as well was something that we had to work through, and really grateful that everybody was game across the organization to dive into a simple idea that really would enable us to drive conversation around two key topics that are so relevant to us as a brand, but also pertinent to our customers.
Excellent. Okay, very last question. Back to Shagufta. We saw that maybe your campaign was the only one where you had like a lot of channels, in the sense that Subway, you tapped into a home. So how did the world of fast food inspire these channel choices for the campaign?
Oh, great question. It was at the core of it. So people love buying fast food when they are on the go. They're coming home, they're hungry, and it's the easiest, most affordable, most delicious thing to pick up. And so showing up in things like busy subway stations was critical. But it wasn't just where we showed up, it was also how we showed up. So we actually transformed how we show our food photography. And it needed to be as sexy as food could possibly be, as sexy as a fast food commercial. And so we really took a lot of inspiration from, McDonald's, Burger King's ads across North America to drive a lot of that photography and that visual. So it's about where we showed up, also how we showed up as well. That really was inspired by it.
Excellent. I think we're out of time. So I think thank you for these insightful campaigns. We can't wait to hear what you have planned for 2025. I think I'll hand it over to Chris to wrap up.
Yeah, thanks so much to everybody. That's a wrap. Love the work at IKEA, Knorr, and Barilla, and how they were able to bring, all of you were able to bring awareness to how your respective campaigns were able to shape your brands in meaningful ways. And I do want to give a huge shout out to our volunteers that help bring this all together. So for IABC Toronto, thank you so much, Rasha, for you leading our team and bringing the speakers and bringing Edelman together. I also want to give a shout out to Mozam, Zane, Niharika, all you've did a great job of donating your time and your energy to support this event. So a big thank you to you. And of course, a big thanks again to Scott and our friends at Edelman for making tonight's event possible. It's a shame we weren't able to meet in person. And of course, to Shagufta, Lisa, Nyla, thanks again. Have a great night, and look forward to seeing you again at our next IABC event. Have a great night.